Well, welcome to lesson 5. This is a 1-week lesson, so there's a lot going on, and we're also very near the end of the unit, okay? So you really need to be not only be on top of this lesson, but be working already for the next lesson. I've just gone over your discussions where you talked about the movie that you are picking to analyze, and I'm very, very pleased by the range of movies, okay? And please don't forget, this is an analysis, not a review. The documentation is in lesson 6, all right? And it follows the textbook chapters just exactly like the courses follow them, okay? And I think you all got that. Reading the discussions, I really think you understood that there's almost an outline. The textbook chapters are almost the outline for your analysis, okay? So please look over the documentation. It's at the end of the learning module right in a second. I'm looking at the learning module for lesson 5. If you go all the way down to the bottom, after you've looked at the films, and I'll get back to that in just a minute, you'll see I have the planning ahead document. I have a couple articles on how to write a movie review, but don't forget this is more of an analysis than a review. And the difference here is we're not asking you if you like the movie. That's what a review does, okay? Or the review says if the movie's good or bad or worth watching. We're not doing that here. Instead, you're breaking down the components of the movie and basically saying what they mean. How are they working? The reader is going to be able to determine from the way you describe how the movie works if it's worth watching or not, okay? And basically, you look at each particular unit of the movie as the textbook outlines the way you look at movies. And you say, okay, this is what's going on here. So a good analysis kind of tells not so much the what's, but the hows and the whys. Okay, how is this working? Why is this working? You don't have to say that it does work or doesn't work or that you like it or you don't like it. Rather, you say, here's what's going on in this particular component of the movie. Here's what the costumes are like. Here's what they did. Here's what the sound is like. Here's what the score is like. Here's what the director is doing. Here's what the acting is like. Here's who the actors are. Here's the style they're acting in. Those kinds of things. So it's more of a stylistic report where you take the movie apart and put it back together rather than you saying that you like it or not. All right. So that's basically the difference between an analysis and review. And when you get to Unit 6, you'll see that the documentation there is very thorough. Okay. There's really good documentation. It really tells you exactly how to unfold your paper, exactly how to go about it. So that's blabbing enough about that. But because this is a busy class and a compressed class, these internet classes are compressed, I really want you always to be looking ahead. So once again, I really enjoyed looking at your discussions, terrific choices, and terrific understanding of what an analysis really is. I was impressed, and I have made a few comments on each of your discussions. Okay, so the movies for this unit are a lot of fun, okay? 2 of them are by the same director, Stanley Kubrick. That's sort of the point here, Dr. Strangelove and Full Metal Jacket. These are both basically 60s movies, all right? Dr. Strangelove came first, and those of you who did not live through the height of the Cold War, it really wasn't funny. It's sort of like post 9/11, okay? We're back in that era again. We just don't quite know what's going to happen sometimes, all right? We feel fairly safe again, fortunately. But back in the 60s and 50s, the threat of nuclear war was really strong, okay? And there's some thought that maybe the government was sort of deliberately overplaying it, right? And the movie kind of here delves into that a little bit. Dr. Strangelove is pretty political, all right, if you think about it. So I think you'll enjoy it. It's a classic film. It's a ton of fun, but you really have to understand sort of the historical context, that there was sort of a national fear of nuclear annihilation, all right. Full Metal Jacket, same director, Stanley Kubrick. He's really kind of over the top as a director, all right. I was a GI in this era. I didn't go to Vietnam, but I knew literally hundreds of Vietnam veterans. I was in companies, platoons, training with them, and I have a strong feeling. I know for a fact that this movie is very, very authentic. Okay, they talk about walking the walk and not just talking the talk. Very famous line out of the movie. Okay, and you can always tell that about a former GI veteran. If they talk too much about it, they probably didn't really walk the walk. All right, too much talk, not enough walk, and you'll catch that out of the movie. The basic training scenes are very, very authentic, all right? I lived through basic training in this period. I was in the Marine. I was in the Army at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, a real hellhole, let me tell you, all right? And basic training during the Vietnam War was way over the top all the time, okay? So very, very stressful. This movie is very, very stressful to watch. And then the combat scenes, I haven't personally seen this kind of combat, but I have been in combat zones since then, and the level of fear all the time is, and those of you Iraq and Afghanistan veterans know this, really high. Okay, really hard to live with and I kind of get down on all the time. So Full Metal Jacket is a classic, very authentic, not overplayed. Okay, then we move on to Brokeback Mountain. It's a different part of the unit. Okay, it's not terribly connected to Dr. Strangelove and Full Metal Jacket. Brokeback Mountain explores social issues of the times. Okay, it's hard to believe that's only 8 years ago, 2005. A lot has changed. Okay, a lot has changed in our feelings, national feelings about homosexuality, about gay marriage, those kinds of things. This movie is a sad, sad movie. Okay, it broke my heart first time I watched it, and I've watched it several times since. It's part of a long tradition of social cause movies. I think it's very important to understand that. Okay, there have not been that many about homosexual issues. Okay, so this was extremely groundbreaking at the time, but it goes back to the movies that were groundbreaking about race relations in the 60s. You had Sidney Poitier and Gregory Peck doing movies about race relations. Gregory Peck was in To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962. Very famous, groundbreaking movie about race relations. All right, Sidney Poitier, who is a black actor, all right, was in The Heat of the Night. A couple other movies at the time, 1964, that explored race relations. More recently, we got up to Gene Hackman in Mississippi Burning, which is kind of an FBI movie, but it still explores race relations. Then you got to about the same era, 1985, Steven Spielberg and The Color Purple, Alice Walker's huge novel called The Color Purple about race relations. And then more recently, my wife and I just watched 42, the Jackie Robinson story with Chadwick Boseman as Jackie Robinson and Harrison Ford as the owner of the, or the manager of, not the manager, but kind of the vice president of the team, exploring the first black professional baseball player, major league professional baseball player. These were strange times, difficult times, okay? And I think, as you know by now, I came of age in the 60s, all right? And my first job as teaching was in a segregated junior high school. I had all black students, 100% black students. Those were very, very strange times, okay? Fortunately, we've come a long way. You know, we have a president who's African-American, but things are not perfect yet, okay? I don't know that they ever will be perfect. But anyway, we've come a long ways, and I'm completely pleased by the progress. And movies document the progress. And also, the question becomes, do movies push the process, all right? What is the role of film? What is the role of Hollywood in social change, okay? I think I would personally have to argue, and you can argue the other way if you want, that social change does come from popular culture also, right? It's not just church. I mean, churches go a long ways too, and so do politics, all right? But social change, the Army was a huge advocate for social change, okay? The Army and the Air Force at the time worked very, very hard on race relations. And then I think film has played a very, very important role. So a class like this is not just for fun, all right? It's not just lighthearted. It's that there's serious things going on, reflecting our culture and pushing our culture. And I can tell that you all are getting that. I'm really pleased by the level of discussion. So I've yacked on long enough. These are my notes, okay? I think I've covered everything here. So please, you all already are buckling down, so I don't need to repeat that. But the class is coming to an end real quickly. So just stay on top of everything. If you have questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Thank you.